panel. We welcome back everyone, and I hope the keywords good and most of them are here. The session is on diversity and inclusion roundtable, focusing on building a diverse and inclusive workplace. Moderating the session is Mr. Muridhar, CEO, Shenzhen. Our esteemed panelists are Mr. Rakesh Jain, Vice President, Miles Education. Ms. Parul Singh, Vice President, People and Culture and Excellence. Ms. Aparna Chetan, CHRO, Dore Harris. Ms. Ashwini Prakash, Managing Partner, Samsung Base. Ms. Annapurna A, Head HR, Prime. Coming to Mr. Muridhar, CEO Shenzhen, the moderator. He is founder of an AI-driven marketplace with over 2 decades of experience in HR, deep expertise in DI, management consulting, career development, corporate training, and leadership development. He has been vocalist about diversity inclusion in a big way. The next online is Mr. Rakesh Jain. He's engaged in talent acquisition for the last 20 years, having worked with Accenture, Wipro, Deloitte, KPMG, and Grant Thornton. Next comes Ms. Parul Singh, the Vice President, People Excellence, a passionate HR leader and executive coach, leading HR functions at various stages of transformation, from startups to mergers to acquisitions. We welcome you, ma'am.
Ms. Aparna Chetan, CHRO, Dore Harris, is an accomplished HR leader with over 23 years of experience in human capital strategy, transformation, culture, and operations. Ms. Ashwini Prakash, Managing Partner, Stanton Chase. With over 20 years of experience in executive search and consulting, she partners with client organization in designing and developing succession planning for CEOs and prominent board positions. Ms. Annapurna A, HR Fine. With over 25 years of strategic experience across infrastructure, manufacturing, aeronautics, sales, IT, and healthcare, she excels in greenfield project execution and organizational development. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think good thing that this topic is starting before lunch. I'm sure nobody's going to sleep. Just give me a quick cheer on that, hopefully. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for IMB and the program you kind of arranged for armed forces. And a quick question for the people who are actually doing the program. You guys served almost like what, 20, 25 years, 15 years, and mentioned that you retired. Still you want to come back and serve the country? Okay. So I think big applause to all of them, right, guys? Because those are the people who actually kind of been there, part of us, serving us, and now going back and continue to serve our industry. But guys, be little cautious thing, and corporate is little different. And I'm sure the gentleman here was the panel who's going to really kind of give you help you to say that how do we take this program ahead, right? Thank you very much. Before the initial panel taken a question, I just wanted to kind of ask him, where is he? I think he is asking DI questions, right? But that talks about how important diversity and inclusion in the world, right? And whether you talk any topic in the world, the diversity become part of whole world, right? So that's where I think we're privileged to be part of this session. And then thank you all the panel. Not to take too much of time, maybe I'll start with asking few questions. Ashwini, maybe I'll start with you. So what are the typical significant challenges industry is actually facing on implementing, especially D&I, effectively in the any strategies you're following and something like that?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me here. In fact, I grew up in the north part of Bangalore, which is where you have Jalali Air Force. I think I find this crowd extremely familiar. I think this is a beautiful way for me to spend my Sunday morning with you all. Thank you for that. Well, coming back to D&I, right? I mean, there has been decades of work which is happening around this space. I hope we'll do some justice in whatever time allotted for today. We'll try our best. Well, as far as I come from a consulting background, right? My almost 20 years are spent on the consulting side of the HR. I come from a corporate HR background and then moved into consulting, by virtue of which I have had this opportunity to see both sides of the world. There has been a significant improvement in the way these things have progressed on the D&I part of it. But having said that, there are about 8 to 10 industries which I work with. Each of the industries have their own nuances, they have their own reasons as to why this has not taken off, right? But if I look at it broadly, there are a few common factors which are actually posing a challenge for diversity. Firstly, it will start with the thinking, right? The minute you say diversity, the thought that comes on the mind is gender. Okay, at least in India. If I look at my global counterparts, it's a lot better there. But here, at least in India, we think about the gender. That's how the thinking begins. But you fail to see diversity is much, much beyond that. How do you ensure you hire people or bring in talent, at least from the talent perspective, people from different walks of life, different backgrounds. So it will all start with the thinking first. And then another big challenge is in terms of understanding. There's lack of awareness or lack of understanding about how the other industries are, structured, the kind of roles people do there. So there's a tendency, which I call it as resistance to change in most of the corporates. They have this temptation to go and hire people who are similar to them, who look like them, who work like them. So there is a bit of a resistance to hire people from a different industry because they feel they don't understand their space, which leads to biases in their unconscious biases when you make your decisions. And again, corporates where you have lack of diversity at the leadership level, that's a bigger challenge because everything basically, the tone is set by the top management, right? I mean, it all starts from there. And then it will lead to, in terms of what kind of resources you're allocating. It's not about hiring people from a different industry, but what is the journey? What is the path? How are you going to incorporate them, onboard them, orient them? What kind of an inclusive environment you're going to? So it's a big, big plan and program needs to be executed really well. It is not a fancy thing, okay, I am also, chasing a diversity ratio, I have this, but how do you even, measure that and then create that kind of a thriving environment for people from diverse background? I think it's a combination of all of this where I feel the major challenges come from. There are a lot more to follow, but these are the major things which I see coming up.
Fantastic. Good points, right? I think, when you're talking about leadership is the one which kind of need to, come down from there and then it should go down to the getting DI right level, right? So when you talk about leadership, right, maybe, this is for you, Aparna. I think you're well-known industry leader. I think there are a lot of mentoring you do to a lot of people. When you kind of implementing DI in the industry, so when she's talked about leadership being the top, right? So how is the change management really works? And then, how do you communicate or convince the board or a leadership to kind of make them important about DI? Any ideas on that?
Sure, thank you, Muralidhar. But before that, I want to say thank you. It's a privilege and an honor to be here. I think all I can say is we're all safe thanks to all of you. So thank you so much. So to add to your question, Muralidhar, here is what I always feel. It starts from us. If you are convinced, you can convince people. And I think I was privileged, one, from the family that I come from. My grandfather was a retired district judge. And I think that's where it started for me, on the diversity, right? The different kind of people you get to meet. So it starts from there. So for me, diversity begins at home. Inclusion begins at home. before we bring it out. Having said that, now in the organizations that I've worked, it's not been easy. But having said that, I think it's my own conviction, right? And how can I influence? So as a leader, if you can influence your peers, your management, your job is half done. Then you find the person. So I think I've been successful. I wouldn't say 100%. That would be like too much. But then yes, 90% I've been successful in ensuring that, don't look at the names, don't look at the gender, don't look at the age, don't look at people who have a gap, or don't look at anything else. See what the person can bring to the table. Like I think before this, Praveen was talking about, hire for a will and skill can be taught. I strongly believe in that.
Fantastic. So, thank you. I think you're saying that implement from the home is the first thing which is actually kind of come to the diversity and all the stuff. So I think, thank you for that. Annapurna, this for you. I think you're in the industry more than 3 decades and doing a lot of work and all. What are the few best practices you have seen in the industry and you have seen from maybe last 3 decades, and then when people do not even understands what is called DEI and now?
I will stand up first of all because sincere gratitude.
You're making us to stand as well?
Yes. And for me, defense is not new because I have grown up with the MiG-21 and MiG-27 in HAL Koraput. So my father was from Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, MOD, and I also worked in HAL. So I'm very close to wing commanders, brigadiers, squadron leaders, everyone. And thank you very much. And it's time for us to do something for you, actually. Thank you.
Annapurna won a bet with me. She said that she'll make everybody stand. I don't know, this is the way she does.
And coming back to the question what Murli is asking, I would first say that, okay, before even coming back to the best practices, what industry is trying to do or has done or something, are you a role model? That's the first question you should ask for DEI. Okay, so for me, I am not a role model only within the organizations where I work. I am putting myself as a community DEI champion. What is that? Today, supposing someone asks me, are you from which state? They'll get confused because I speak 7 fluent Indian languages and I have length and breadth roamed India. I worked with multi-global countries with all my work, this ones. And of course, when I sit here and talk about this, I can go to any rural place, to any cities and navigate myself. And this question of best practices, unfortunately, when I worked with 12 different sectors, I'm not talking about, my colleague was telling over here that people prefer talent from one place to other. So that has been also a challenge for me, because if I am in aeronautical, how would I move to, a logistics company? From logistics to how would I move to an IT consulting to, IT services or product companies or a fintech, which I'm right now there. So these are some of the challenges which you yourself are going through. And on top of that, if I bring one element of diversity, that is gender, it's a lot to talk about, lots to do about over there. And there are multiple things. And I myself also categorize myself as a tribal woman of Koraput and an Adivasi, because I believe strongly when your roots are very strong and you have already understood this whole ecosystem, then you have no way to be stopped by anyone. Second, when I've seen these diverse industries, what has happened? When I worked with the government of India, I think I didn't have this question in my mind. What is DEI? Because we had everything. When I have to recruit, I knew how many ex-servicemen I have to fill, how many people with different abilities